Right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So this is the second video in the series. We're going to be covering how to perform an installation of Nutanix Kubernetes Platform using the command line interface. Let's get started. So as usual, we need to go to the Nutanix support portal. Head over into downloads by expanding the hamburger menu. Head over to downloads and under Nutanix Kubernetes Platform. We will need to download two things. The first one is the Node OS image, which is based on Rocky Linux. Like I mentioned in the previous video, you can also build your own images if that is what you want. We'll also be needing the NKP for Linux command line interface binary. So let's go ahead and download the CLI. Untar it and move the binary into my bin folder. Check the version of NKP, CLI, and it's 2.12, which is the latest at this time of recording. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to upload the image, right? So this has already been uploaded, but I just wanted to share how we can do it in a very easy manner. We can click on the three little dots over here, select copy download link, head over to Prism Central under infrastructure, compute and storage, images, and just click add an image. Select URL and key in the URL, click add URL, and it will automatically download the image in the background for you. I've already done this, so I'm not going to do this again. Okay, so in order for us to perform a CLI based install, we need to have a couple of environment variables. So what I have over here is a code editor that has got all the commonly used environment variables, which I'll go through one by one. I've also included the descriptions over here. So if you want to see the entire list of flags in the CLI that we can use, what we can do is NKP create cluster Nutanix --help, and it's going to output the entire list of flags that we can use when we're performing the installation using the CLI. Right? But the ones that I'm going to be using in this demo will be in the code editor. So I'll be pasting this environment variables inside the description of this YouTube video as well. Right. So the first one is the cluster name. It's the name of the Kubernetes cluster that I'm going to be spinning up. Self-explanatory. Nutanix PC FQDN endpoint with port. So this is the FQDN, which starts with HTTPS, as well as the IP address or the FQDN URL and the port. The next one is the control plane IP address. This is the IP address for the Kubernetes control plane. The image name will be the image that we uploaded earlier. So it has got to match exactly to what we see in Prism Central, right? So if it's NKP Rocky Linux 9.4 release blah 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 blah, we head over into images. It has got to match this exactly. If there is a .𝗡𝗂𝗏𝗏 in the back, we also need to ensure that we put in a .𝗡𝗏𝗏. All right. So the next thing is the Prism element cluster name. This essentially allows us to select which PE cluster do we want to deploy on. So if we have got multiple Prism element clusters registered to a single Prism Central, what it allows us to do is to basically select the cluster that we want. This is case sensitive, so if it's under our clusters, hardware clusters, if it's stated as WKN-S GPU or WKN-non-GPU, it has to follow the same case sensitivity, right? Next one is subnet name. So this is the subnet that we want to actually deploy the worker nodes and control plane nodes into. It has also got to follow what you see in Prism Central. So if I'm deploying in the cluster, which is a WSKN non-GPU, I would want to select the subnet of a WSKN non-GPU subnet that's inside the WSKN non-GPU cluster. Right, so we can copy this and thus num that in. Just apply this in, right? The project name is the project name that I want this Kubernetes cluster to be associated with. Like I mentioned in the previous video, this is typically good for things like role-based access control or quota management. How many control plane replicas do we need? The default is 3. How many control plane CPUs, vCPUs that do you want? So this is 4 CPUs, and how many cores per CPU. Then how much control plane memory do we want? So it's going to be 16 gig. Worker replicas. So how many replicas of the worker nodes do we want? So I'm considering it's 3. Worker vCPUs is going to be 1 vCPU per worker node, and worker cores per vCPU is going to be 8. So it's going to be 8 vCPUs per worker node. Worker memory in gigs, as well as storage container that we want to actually store our persistent volumes in. So this new storage container name, we can actually obtain it from Prism Central under storage containers, and select the storage container that is on the cluster that you're deploying on. So I'm going to be deploying on the non-GPU cluster. So I'm going to copy this name. Right? There we go. Next is which file system do I want to use for my persistent volume. So I'm going to use the ext4, and I'm going to use the hypervisor attached storage. So this is all controlled via the Nutanix CSI. Next one is the load balancer IP range. This is going to be the IP address that we use to actually access the cluster and any applications or platform applications that we have deployed into it. The next one is the registry mirror URL. So this is slightly different, and this is a small, this is slightly more advanced use case. So I have got a 𝗣𝗿𝗶𝗍𝗶𝗀𝗏 registry over here, and this 𝗣𝗏𝗶𝗍𝗶𝗏 registry I am essentially hosting a proxy cache. So this proxy cache allows me to actually pull images that is available on the public internet repository within Docker, and actually populate it as a cache, so that I don't have to constantly keep pulling all of this container images from the public internet. So I'm setting that as the IP address or the FQDN of my proxy cache registry. So it's https wskn registry.wskn.local/docker.io. Reach out to me if you are not too familiar on how to configure Docker as a proxy cache, right? The mirror cert, so is /root /server.crt. This is what I have on my jump host, and SSH key file, which I'll show you all how to actually create it later on. Then the Nutanix user and the Nutanix password. Obviously, this is self-explanatory. This is for Prism Central. So Nutanix Prism Central. There we go. Okay. Nutanix Prism Central username and password. Okay, so I'm leaving this blank, obviously, for security. What I'll do is I'll pause the video for a while I input all of that credentials in. So as you can see, I have actually exported all the environment variables that I require. So two things. The first one is I can see that my server certificate for my root CA, or for my registry mirror is over here. So I'm currently on /root, right? So I'm setting it as /root /server.crt. And if you are interested in, if you do not know how to create a public private key for the login details, then what you can do is to actually type in SSH keygen, and what it's going to do is automatically creating a key pair for you. Okay, so once we have got all of these requirements or this environment variable set up, what we can do next is to execute the installer. So over here, I have got this entire long command that I'm going to just copy and paste into the jump host to actually perform the installation. And it's going to start creating the bootstrap cluster and go ahead with the installation steps. So I'll be also pasting this command into the YouTube description, so that you all are free to copy and paste. But it's actually pretty self-explanatory what this command does. It essentially maps whatever flags there are in the nkp create cluster Nutanix command with the environment variables that you have set. So this typically takes about 10, 15, 20 minutes depending on how fast your internet connection is. So I won't pause the video. I'll just let the video keep running, and we'll come back to it. the cluster has been successfully deployed. Let's just use this command to get the login credentials. Copy this URL. Let's see, where's my browser? There we go. And the username and password. Right, so now we have got a successfully deployed Kubernetes cluster. We can head over into licensing. We can make changes into the licenses. By default, it comes with NKP starter. I can go ahead and remove the license and add on another license that I have for a trial license. Click on save. What's going to happen is that it's going to see that it's now the NKP Enterprise or Ultimate license. So once we've got that, in a couple of minutes, we'll see the UI get refreshed. We can start to create things like infrastructure providers, identity providers, configure access control. So I'll do all of that in the next video. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching.